I welcome the opportunity to say a few words on behalf of our fishing industry, and I suppose it's ironic to think that it was the English who taught us the value of our fishing around our coast, so way back in the 1600s. And if we went back to the 1970s, the early 1970s, if you were a fisherman with an average size fishing boat, you were deemed to be as well off as anyone had a farm to themselves. And it's ironic to think that we've lost the most of that. And I suppose we all have the picture in our mind of the fishing fleet that came up the Liffey, and the display they gave outside the convention centre or across the way from the convention centre, and the organised way they made their their requests clear to us, to yourself, Minister, you were there that particular day. But it's sad to think that nothing has improved or nothing has happened much except this word decommissioning, and that we have failed. I'm not personalising it anywhere, Minister, but it's the government have failed and failed this fishing industry, as previous governments back over the years have completely and utterly failed the fishing communities in our coastal communities. And when you see every one of those boats and vessels out there, Minister, behind them was a shop somewhere, was a butcher shop, let it be the local restaurant or whatever, all depending on those vessels and their catches. And because the spin-off is so important, as well as the income for the fishermen, it's vital, and this is adversely affecting our rural coastal communities on the periphery of the Atlantic Ocean. And we have so many miles and all the grand places. Look, I'll only talk about Kerry, Dingle, Port McGee, Sneem, the Oysterbed, Pier, Blackwater, Kilmacalogue, Glonagillock in Tusist, and all the way back to the Castledownbere. A lot of our fishermen in Kerry come into the pier or the facilities in Castledownbere. All those, and you know, the decommissioning, I liken it to these eco schemes now being presented are being offered to farmers to actually get them out of farming. And this decommissioning, I actually hate that word, because I know that once someone decommissions and gets out of it, that's another many more livelihoods lost in a community. And you know, I listened to you about the tie-up policy, and you kept saying there in your presentations that that there's a fund in Europe that hasn't been touched yet. I'm asking you now, Minister, and I'm asking the government, the present government that we have today, to touch that fund and go after that fund. I mean, I don't know what you're waiting for, because if boats will go out of business, if fishing fleets will go out of business, because of the cost of fuel and because of the cost of everything, we need to use that fund now. Look, I welcome the 81% increase in blue whiting, but this is only going to assist or benefit a number of like 23 vessels in the total fleet around the country. I'm asking you to revise this policy so that others may benefit from this mackerel fishery as well, and get a fair share of this national fishery. And I suppose when we talk about mackerel in my neck of the woods or in my neck of the sea, we'll say from Kinmare all out to Kinmare River, out to the mouth of Kinmare Bay. I'm hearing complaints that mackerel are very scarce, very, very scarce, Chairman. And I'm asking who knows anything about that or why that is the case. And I've also got complaints of massive trawlers coming in at different times and sweeping up everything. No one even knows who they are. Cleaning out every type of a fish that's there, and that's a complaint that I get along the side of the county that I represent. And who knows about that? Are they aware of that situation? Because it's very serious, and we used to be people calling after fishing back along the bay with mackerel. They bring them in and give them out to people, even though they were a good few miles away from where they fished them. But they'd give them to the people around inside the bar or along the street. They'd have so much of them. Those people aren't to be seen or found at all this year, Chairman. Whatever has happened, and I've been asked to ask about that. I've been asked several times about that. See what is the reason for this? Look, Minister, it's late at night. I'm here. I'm very interested. I do know that we didn't do well out of the Brexit talks. It seems the French gained. I don't know, did we have, I'm not personalise it, I don't know, had we adequate personnel there to fight the case for us in those negotiations? But I'm being told by the fishermen from their hearts that they believe that we lost the battle because we didn't put up a reasonably and fair fight, and that we lost that fight. It's a shame. These fishermen and our fishing industry was always an integral part of our coastal communities, where the farmer or the farmer's son or some of them went fishing in order to keep food on the table. We're going to lose many of those instances of those type of people with the way the thing is going, and I'm only asking, can he do anything more than what he's done? And just look like long ago, my father had a Ferguson tractor bringing a load of rushes of all things into the village of Kilgarvan, and the farmer wanted him to go in between two houses, and the load of rushes fell against the gable of the house, and the man that ordered him to come with the load of stuff asked him, can you do any better? And my father said, sure, I'm doing my best. Well, he said, your best isn't good enough. So I'm saying to you now, Minister, your best so far hasn't been good enough. I'm asking you to do better and not to leave our entire fishing fleet disintegrate. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Yeah, listen, Deputy Healy-Rae, anything and everything that can be done to support our sector has been done, and that's fighting and battling at European level, and indeed then working with the sector domestically to support it as well. In relation to the funding at the fund at European level, that is funding which is earmarked for other things in the fishing sector, but can be turned into immediate liquidity. But as I outlined earlier on, I have a scheme in place for the whitefish sector which ran from June until the end of November, and I'm assessing the challenges there and the pressure that's there in relation to that. But if you draw that down, that means that you're drawing down funding, Deputy, which is earmarked for other purposes and can go to other purposes in the fishing sector for immediate support now. So it means it's not there for something else. So that's obviously a decision you have to give strong consideration to before you do it. But listen, otherwise overall, the fishers and the sector is really important for coastal communities, really important for the coastal community which I live, and it's one we must ensure continues to be that, and that's certainly my objective. And any proposals or policies you might have and suggestions you have in relation to how we continue to support them, Deputy Healy-Rae, I'm all ears, and my approach has been to work with those who know the industry best who understand it, to develop shared and common strategies as to how we put our strongest effort forward to try and better the industry and to support it, and we'll continue to do that.
Just a question I had about the mackerel. Is there any explanation for why our stocks seem to be nil this year?
Kieran,
along the
Kieran to comment on that if there's any.
One of the things about mackerel, Deputy, is that it's widely distributed. So it's distributed all the way from the coast of Portugal right the way up to the coast of Norway. And if you look back into, and the Marine Institute has looked at this, we've had great scientist, John Malloy is one of them, who looked back into the historical period, for example, back in the 1800s, and you will see the exact same patterns then, which were a mystery at that point, of mackerel appearing and subsequently disappearing, particularly in the coastal area. That's small, what we call juvenile mackerel. They're immature, and their distribution, they don't just live in a place like we live in a farm or in a house, they follow food. And if there's little enough food available for them, depending on what they're hunting, they move into different areas. So the distribution of mackerel that you see around the coast is just based on the distribution of food that the mackerel are hunting. And that's why they're there sometimes and they're not there other times. And that can happen from one year to the next. So just because mackerel, juvenile mackerel, are not present in a bay in one particular year, doesn't mean they're gone from the stock, or doesn't mean they're gone from the bay. They're just gone from that bay from that year because they're in another bay.
And just briefly, the big trawlers that are cleaning out everything.
So listen, there was a decision taken and a process put in place, what, 3-4 years ago, by my predecessor, Minister Creed, in relation to preventing large trawlers from operating inside the 6 mile zone. That was challenged in court, and for the court initially put a stay on preventing those boats coming within 6 miles, but removed that stay there in a decision a number of months ago. We're awaiting the final judgment and final decision of the court in relation to that. The objective behind the decision, Deputy Healy-Rae, was to prevent larger trawlers coming in, and particularly targeting sprat inside the 6-12 mile zone, which is an important feeder fish for other fish which feed off them. But at the moment it remains in the courts, and once I receive the final judgment, then I'll consider that.